Good morning and welcome to the programme. It is Monday morning. It's the first Monday in February. My anniversary, first anniversary of joining this great programme and this great radio station and the great team. Thanks very much for your text this morning and look forward to the next 12 months. Now we're going to go in a second to Pat Edwards from Deise Animal Sanctuary about the issue of the sulky horse yesterday. We're also going to be talking to Paul Dolan from Hooper Dolan Insurance. We've got a big piece about illegal dumping. We've got an interview with Michelle O'Neill, the Deputy Leader of Sinn Féin. We have 12 with Tiernan and John Cummins is our guest this morning. We have issues on the childcare strike that's happening on Wednesday, how it is going to affect you. And Dr. Fergus McNamara is going to come in to talk about vasectomies. If you have any questions on that, please let us know. Going to go straight to Pat Edwards. Pat, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Thank you very much for joining us. Pat, I'm just going to read out a number of texts I got from a few people over the weekend, and you've been listening to it on the news. There's a lot on social media about it. A lot of these people don't want to actually come on air themselves. They just want to let me know and let us know what the situation was. Damien, I was dropping my son to work this morning. This is yesterday morning, Sunday. The guy in the sulky had hit a car outside the mansion house. I'm not sure how he ended up off the sulky, but the horse then went full speed down the wrong side of the road towards Polburley. Luckily I swerved and avoided it and the car behind me, but the car second behind me wasn't so lucky. The guy on the sulky, dressed in a high-vis gear, just ran off and never even bothered going to see if people or the horse had crashed that were okay or if the horse was okay. It was an awful thing to happen. It was an awful thing to happen in the city centre at 11:40 on a Sunday morning. Another person has texted in, Damien, my dad's car was involved in the accident with a horse yesterday on the Ballytruckle Road. I've spoken to the Gardaí about it. Another person texted in about the issue and basically saying it looks like it came down from Johns Hill through a red light, turned and ended up in a footpath in the mansion house, ran along and back out Jacob's shop, sending a member of the public running for their life. A minute and 40 seconds so later, the guy with the high-vis jacket walked up the road. The horse had to be put down last night.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about the injuries to the horse.
Well, I believe they were horrific. We didn't actually post them up on our Facebook because we have a lot of children following us. But the problem is, and it comes down to the same thing, there's no enforcement. It doesn't matter what you bring up, animal protection or anything like that, there is no enforcement in Ireland whatsoever. The Control of Horses Act is enforced by the guards. But the council, the local council, have the right to ban anything they want, bring out bylaws or anything like that. It's like a bowl of soup. Everybody's taking the spoonful, but nobody's getting the blame or saying, yes, we need to do something. All right, it's up at the moment because it's election time. Whenever an election comes in, everybody's there to help us and say, oh, we've got to do something about it. The best thing that could ever have happened is that some of the local charities are given some more enforcement than they've got and not keep on depending on the guards. Because, to be honest, the guards are limited to what they can do anyway, and half the time they're not available. But if we had our own enforcement or were able to do something ourselves, that we could actually take somebody to court ourselves, there'll be a lot more done. We're standing on the byline all the time, phoning up the ISPCA, phoning up the guards because we've got a problem, and the animals are suffering. There is not enough enforcement. They keep on making the bills. They keep on making the laws. But if you haven't got the people to enforce it, there's nothing there. You might as well make as many as you want. It's down to the guard for the highway. When a horse is loose on a highway or when he causes any suffering, it's down to the department to enforce the passports, which, if they're on traveller's site, this horse was out without a passport. He wasn't microchipped, so therefore he was out illegally. If it's a young lad who's got it, and like I stated last night on Facebook, if it's a young lad that's got it, put some responsibility back to the parents. Don't keep on saying, oh, he's too young to prosecute, we can't do nothing about it. Somebody is liable.
Okay,
just has their name on a passport.
Just hang on there a second, Pat, for a second. Paul, good morning.
Morning.
Paul Dolan from Hooper Dolan Insurance. I know the line is a little bit muffly there, Paul, so just be careful in terms of the talking, as they say. Tell me, Paul, regarding insurance matters, explain to me, please, if you have a car that's damaged by a sulky horse, what is the situation?
Okay. If you have comprehensive cover, which people have 80-90% of the time, you can put a claim through your motor policy. That'll cover the cost of repairing the vehicle. That's the first problem solved. What happens at next renewal is the next step. Your premium may go up. Now, if you've got a good product, if you bought it through Hooper Dolan, I'd like to say your premium will be offering bonus protection. Your premium shouldn't go up hugely, but it may go up. Your insurance company, after they pay the claim, they do have the option to try and recover against a responsible party. And if the responsible party has insurance, they may succeed. If the responsible party doesn't have insurance, it may not be worth pursuing at all, because there'll be a cost and no ultimate recovery. I suppose the bigger issue, if there's no insurance, is if the driver of the car is injured. So if there's a real serious injury and the driver of the car can't work or needs hospitalisation, there's no policy that will cover the cost of that injury. So
yeah, because the situation is that, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, and Pat might know this as well, but Paul, a sulky is not considered a motorised vehicle, is it?
That's correct. There's no legal requirement for sulky operators to purchase third-party insurance.
Yeah, so that means that if you had an accident, for example, or somebody hit you, that a non-insured driver hit you, you can go to a thing called the Motor Bureau of Ireland.
That's right. So if a non-insured driver hits a person and they're seriously injured, there is a fund there that will provide a payout and will provide money to cover the cost of that injury.
But our understanding at this stage, Paul, is that that wouldn't apply to anybody in this situation. Like, I got a text last night, I was talking to a man, very upset. His wife's car, a 181 Audi, €32,000 worth, gone. The car is written off.
Yeah, no,
like,
what you're saying is correct.
It's scandalous. It is scandalous.
Yeah, no, what you're saying, no recourse to that fund, is correct.
Like, we'll go back to Pat and talk about the animal welfare matter in a minute, but firstly, that person, and there was 3 or 4 other cars badly damaged. Another person texted me, a woman, saying it was just horrendous to see what happened, talking about how the horse was upset, and then talking about the injuries to the horse, and then the people seeing their cars damaged by this, and then whoever was there running off. Like, if the Gardaí do find whoever it was that ran away, he left the scene of an accident, allegedly, he obviously did, then there may be some court case, but then you're looking at getting money for him. But he's not, like, let's say there's €50,000 worth of damage done to vehicles. People are going to be out of pocket, aren't they?
They will. If somebody hasn't got comprehensive motor insurance, they're personally out of pocket. If they've comprehensive motor insurance, the insurance company's out of pocket if they can't recover.
And what happens if you hit a sulky? If you were driving on the ring road around Waterford or Ballygun or wherever you're driving, and if you hit one of these lads, what would happen there, Paul?
You have a motor policy. The process would be they would actually sue you, and your policy will pay for the injuries and the legal action. So they're protected if you hit them. You're not protected if they hit you. That's the short version. What's
the solution to this before I go back to Pat, Paul? What do you think is the solution? Should sulkies be banned, or should they be regulated?
I think there's a debate about banning them. I don't know if it's a meaningful debate. I know there was some attempt to bring legislation early last year. I think it fizzled out and didn't go anywhere. Clearly, regulation is necessary. I'm not certain how easy it would be to insure these things because no one would really want to insure them because they're quite dangerous. The banning them, I think, is probably where it will all ultimately lead in a couple of years' time.
Paul Dolan from Hooper Dolan. Thanks for joining us this morning, okay, Paul, okay?
Right.
Thank you. Pat Edwards, I'm going to go back to you. Are you still there?
Yes, darling.
And I want to say thank you and well done to everybody in Waterford Animal Welfare who were at the scene as well. I know you were with Deise Animal Sanctuary. We tried Waterford Animal Welfare. We couldn't get anybody there this morning. Do you think they should be banned, Pat, or should there be a track made and that the sulky racing should take place in a field under strict regulations, or what's the solution to this?
Well, to be honest, one thing I will say that you can't put all people in the same boat. I go onto a lot of traveller sites and the horses are immaculate. The problem is build a track like they did in Clondike, and they spent all this money. But what comes down to the bit of it, if there's a race coming on for a sulky race, you will see all the horses out on the road being trained for that race. And I'm talking about racing for 30, 40, 50,000 at a time. And this is what's doing the damage. And the children out on the road. If your child's out on a push bike and it scratches a car, then the parents and the insurance are after the parents. Or you have a dog run out, they're after you because it was your dog. Now, the passports came out to identify every horse. Every horse in this country should have a passport, a donkey or anything. But it seems that it's one rule for one and one for another. We have to get passports, we have to have land, we have to have a holding number for our equine passport. Where is the enforcement going for that? Because it's not enforced. And while they can do everything, it's the ethnic, not being funny, the ethnic minority are being picked on all the time. Well, if they complied like we have to comply, then it would be a different kettle of fish. The welfare is bad.
If you banned sulky racing off the roads and said if there was going to be a race, if you did manage to get a track, and if you were going to have, then the practicing would have to take place on the track, and then there'd be regulated, and there'd be proper keeping of the horses, and there'd be all that sort of stuff. So is that not a potential way of doing it? Like, it is dangerous to have them on the roads. Like, I've seen a video which a person asked me not to put up on social media last night because it would identify where it came from in terms of his house. But this horse was running, having the driver haven't lost control of it. The driver had been thrown away, and it was running. And the speed of it going down the road in Ballytruckle, if it had hit a child or a man or a woman or anybody, it would have killed them.
Exactly. But how many ethnic minority would use a track? I'm not being funny. How will they get to the track? Will they take in a horse box, or will they just jog the horse down, which would make no excuse at all and make no change? We need proper enforcement. If a guard going up the road sees a young child on a horse driving a sulky, the horse has no engine. It has no engine, so it goes under a different requirement to an insurance. And nothing against Paul. All I'm going to say is, how many people can afford to be fully compensation on a vehicle? The money isn't about to be fully compensated.
Fully comprehensive, yes. Yeah. And then you have the issue. Pat has just phoned in at 051 846 123. You can text us on 083 333 975. A sulky collapsed in front of him on the ring road. The foal hit the bonnet of his car. The fella and the cart hit the road in front of him. I rang the guard, says Pat, and left my number, and they never called me back.
That's right. But the problem is, and can I just say one more thing, and I'm probably going to be shocked for this. When I have a horse, if we have a horse up here and we break a horse that's come in that's wild or anything like that, that horse is at least 2 or 3 years old before it's even put in with a mouthing bit. They're racing foals at 9 months old down the bypass. The horses can hardly have just come off the mother. They can hardly know what they're doing. But if you can't break a horse when it's 4 years old and you have to break a horse when it's 8 or 9 months, got no road sense, because you can master that horse on that speed and you can master that horse at that age, then something needs to be done.
And why can't
unnecessary suffering?
Do ye not have the power to say to the guards, this horse has to be taken away from these people? This is not responsible owners. Can you not do that?
I'll be honest, Damien, I've never took a guard on a site with me yet.
Why not? Like, if you're seeing animal cruelty or if you're seeing issues that relate to animals and you believe that this has to be dealt with by the law, why aren't you going and getting the guards and bringing them onto the site and getting this horse for the sake of the horses?
I do more with dogs, but to be honest, and horses, I'll be honest, I don't need a guard. Because at the end of the day, I stick my...
But hold on a second, Pat. You've just told me that you're seeing these 9-month foals that are being put out on the roads like that. That's not right. Is there not a responsibility on you as well to basically say, let's try and get this sorted?
Yeah, but the problem is we have no power.
Well, the guards have the power. You have the power to call the guards and say, we have an animal cruelty issue here. Come and sort this out. Why aren't you doing that?
They don't come.
What?
Because they don't come. Half the time they don't come.
Well, you just said you don't ring them. You just said you don't ring them.
Oh, no. I had a dog on the road not long ago. And
no, we're talking about horses here now. Let's focus on the horses. What about the horses?
Right. when is there going to be a bylaw to say no horses on the road other than 6 months?
No, I've asked you a question, Pat. I've asked you a question. You've said that you have never brought a guard onto a halting site with you to basically organise to get a horse taken off because of animal cruelty. Why not? And when are you going to start doing that?
I've gone on myself. Because we've got the horses off if we need to get them off. We've got the animals off without all this hassle. Because if you go on yourself and you know what you're talking about, they will let the horse go. But you have to fight them for it. And I'm willing to fight them for it when I'm on the site. Because you get the guards in, you get hassle. I've got to go on that site again in a few weeks' time. Or when I get another call off probably one of the travellers that's saying there's a horse in bad condition. I go on myself. We get the horses off. Because we're trying to get them off the best way we can and the easiest way we can so we can get back on this site again.
So are you telling me that you are happy with the treatment of all horses on halting sites in relation to sulky racing?
Not at all. I think sulky racing should be banned. I think sulkies on the road should be banned, and I think they should be banned outright. Not just the racing. See, all they do is trying to say that the racing's got to be banned. It isn't the sulky racing. It is the sulkies, whole across the board. Because one place you can't drive in Tipperary, it was all a big function that they were going to stop all the horses on the road. It's still going on. If you're going to ban it across the board.
Well,
bring the act out and do it.
Pat, I want to thank you for joining us this morning.
It's all right.
Pat Edwards, Deise Animal Sanctuary. Thanks very much, Pat. Damien, a sulky collapsed in front of me. We've read out that text. Damien, if a person driving a car had been driving anything smaller, they would be dead. The Audi took the brunt of the accident. The windscreen was destroyed. I'll tell you, the roof of the car was destroyed and the bonnet, and I'm told it's a write-off. Other people texting in, Damien, this has to be sorted. Damien, who's paying the damage to the car? It's about time the law started doing their job. Well done, Damien, on the questions you asked, Pat. Damien, so many times I've come across sulky drivers driving out of the hospital. At least you have a second to pass them, but it's still very, very dangerous. Listening in the mid-county. Damien, I was travelling towards Williamstown roundabout from Johns Park on Thursday, the right-hand lane. There was a sulky being driven by an adult in the left-hand lane. He looked over his shoulder, seen me and proceeded to pull straight across in front of me, causing me to brake hard. And my Jeep, I had to stop inches from him. I couldn't blow the horn at him as I would have spooked the horse. He told me to F off. He could have killed me. He couldn't have cared less. Disgraceful behaviour on the roads, and there needs to be consequences for this. Damien, I was working last week, and the council workers came into a petrol station, and they came in to take a dead horse away that was killed at the back. Damien, please, something has to be done about this before somebody is killed. Damien, I'm livid. I saw the pictures of the poor animal. I'm sick and tired of this going on a regular basis. The law has to apply for everybody. Sulky racing needs to be banned. The government needs to bring in laws and get this sorted. Damien, nobody wants to see cruelty. Damien, this has to be sorted. Somebody will be killed. It's only a matter of time. And many, many texts coming in on that. Please get your texts and comments coming in. 083 3333 975. I'm really, really livid about this. We're going to talk to John Cummins next. Now, keep your texts and comments coming in. We're going to come back to those issues. John Cummins is in studio with me, and Lauren is here too. Hello, Lauren.
Morning, Damien.
John, tell us just on the sulky thing before we start our 12 with Tiernan. What do you think?
Oh, look, I think it's absolutely awful. I think it's abhorrent. I think that sulky racing should be banned. My thoughts go out to the driver this morning, and obviously the animal. This is an issue that has been ongoing. Gardaí, council, animal rights activists have all been involved, and
something needs to be done.
Something does need to be done. We passed a motion in Waterford City and County Council to ban sulky racing, and we've written to the Minister for Transport, and it is something that certainly I would take up if elected as a TD.
OK, we're going to go straight into our 12 with Tiernan.
Election 2020, 12 with Tiernan. Hear from your candidates on Deise Today on WLR.
OK, John, you know the format on this. We're going to have 12 minutes. I have a stopwatch here in front of me, and we will reset that. Going to ask you a few simple questions, give you a chance to talk, and ask people for you to put your views across. OK, happy enough with that?
Sure, Damien.
Thanks very much for coming in.
No problem at all.
Councillor John Cummins, Fine Gael, running in the general election. Why should people vote for you?
Well, firstly, thanks very much, Damien, for the opportunity to speak to you and the listeners this morning. For those that don't know me, I'm John Cummins. I'm married to Inga. We got married last July following the local elections, so it's been quite a busy time. I'm a qualified teacher. I've taught in Dungarvan, Kilmacthomas and Ferrybank, and for the last 6 years I've been teaching at St Paul's in Waterford City. I was elected to the council at the age of 21 in 2009, and I've been returned in each of the two elections since, and I've had the honour of serving the people of Waterford as mayor on 2 occasions, and I believe I have the experience and drive and vision to represent the people of Waterford at a national level, and I want to represent all of Waterford, not east or west or not city and county, but a positive, proud and inclusive Waterford. And I think we need fresh thinking, and we need a new voice, and we need someone with energy, enthusiasm, dedication and a commitment to hard work, and I believe I'm that person. And my main objective, politics and policies aside, is to work with the other 3 TDs that are elected next Saturday to deliver for the people of Waterford. And that's my promise to the electorate, and that's why I'm asking people to vote number 1, John Cummins, on Saturday.
Couple of very specific questions. The North Quays, one of the big things for the last 5 years, 4 years in particular. You're saying commencement will start sometime in the 4th quarter, sometime from October.
That's what the developer has said.
OK. How can there be a commencement date when... Has the money been guaranteed?
Yes, it has.
And planning hasn't yet been granted?
Hopefully by the end of this month. OK.
But you can't conclusively say there will be commencement at the end of October if those 2 things haven't come true. Like, we have a guarantee from the government, but not in terms of specific, there's the money for you lads.
Well, let's be clear and let's look at it. Fine Gael designated the North Quays as a strategic development zone to bring planning certainty to it.
Yes.
We included in it in Project Ireland 2040. We have it in our capital plan and it is in our national manifesto. Simon Coveney, the Taoiseach, was here in Waterford last week. He gave a clear and unambiguous commitment that the 110 million would be delivered for the infrastructure funding. That's to add to the other 30 million that the developer and the council will put towards the infrastructure, which will then unlock 350 million euro worth of private development in order to develop the North Quays. And we're fully committed to it, Damien. And the details at this moment in time are being worked out in terms of the Department of Transport and Housing and Local Government. It's not a question of whether the 110 million is being given. It's a question of which department pays what percentage.
Yesterday, your leader, Leo Varadkar, spoke of some Fianna Fáil TDs being backwoodsmen opposed to social progress. What would you have to say to that? Are there some Fianna Fáil TDs are backwoodsmen?
Look, I don't get into personality politics, and I don't, I don't agree with comments, of that nature. I prefer to deal with myself and my record and my vision for Waterford.
But he's your party leader.
But what I would say, Damien, it is the Fine Gael party that has brought forward probably the 2 most, progressive pieces of legislation and referendums in the history of the state, and they were difficult debates. And let's remember the history of it. Fine Gael were ridiculed for setting up a citizens' assembly and convention. When Enda Kenny came out with this idea, many in the media and opposition ridiculed him and said that it wouldn't work, but yet it was the citizens' assembly that really, analysed those issues and brought them to the fore and allowed us as the public to have that debate in public and to have them in every household up and down this country and constituency. And I think that was a positive thing.
And just from that last time I interviewed you here, do you want to clarify? Remember you said about the voting?
Sure, and look, you asked me a question the last time in relation to women's right to choose, and I suppose I fudged it, and the reason why I suppose I done that was because I didn't want to be pigeonholed. I didn't want to be said that you can only represent one side of the debate. I represent everyone, regardless of their beliefs, regardless of anything. I don't ask anyone when they pick up the phone to John Cummins, how did you vote in a referendum, to decide whether I can represent them. But certainly, as I said, I believe
you
that
said it the other night. You voted yes.
I voted yes, yeah. And I think it's a positive. And I think as a nation we have come a long way. And I think now that debate has been finished and concluded, we need to move on as a nation.
Okay. Why has your party support fallen so badly in the past few months?
Well, only time will tell, Damien, I suppose, in the real poll, which is Saturday, this coming Saturday. Certainly the polls have not been positive, but equally so I would say to you that they are within the margin of error. 3% is the margin for error. 24 can become 21, 21 can become 24. So it's all still to play for, and that's why I'm out there day in, day out, and night in, night out, trying to knock on as many doors as possible to talk to the people of Waterford. And I've done that over the last number of weeks right across the constituency, and my team has done the same, fighting for as many votes as we possibly can in order to progress Waterford over the coming years.
And in terms of those votes, in the last general election, John Deise got 7,641, Coffey got 7,209, combined 14,850. In the last local election, all Fine Gael councillors and candidates combined got 9,622 votes. That's a drop of 5,028, 33% drop. Are you finding it difficult on the doorsteps?
No, Damien, I'm not, to be honest with you. The reaction has been quite positive. Of course, there has been a lot more engagement, I think, on the doors this time, which is something that I welcome. And, I'm someone that likes talking to people. I'm someone that likes engaging with people. Certainly, I would have preferred a longer campaign. I would have preferred it to be May, not because it would be warmer for my team going around knocking on doors and not annoying people in the night time, but because I would have got to meet more people across the constituency. It's obviously very difficult in a 3-week campaign to get to everyone, but there is good recognition for me personally, what I have done for Waterford, my 2 terms as mayor, acknowledging a lot of progress that were made in those times, and certainly I'd be very hopeful that the people of Waterford will come out and support me, because I believe we need strong representation in Dáil Éireann after this election.
The party centred their national campaign on Brexit, and that has been a disaster effectively. It's hard to believe that any other party in coalition or in power would have also not tried to get a good deal for Ireland. So focusing on abstract issues such as Brexit, that's not coming up on the doorstep.
Well, to be honest with you, to call Brexit an abstract issue, I think is a bit much, because
people want to know about 24/7, they want to know the Cat Lab, they want to know about the airport, the North Quays. So.
And if we have time, I'd certainly love to discuss those issues, but Brexit is a major issue, and it's not just a cliche to say we are at half time. You heard the British government coming out only this morning saying that we're not going to follow this rule and that rule in terms of EU rules, and all of those line by line are going to have to be negotiated. And I don't think there's anybody in any party that wouldn't say that both Simon Coveney and Helen McEntee have been exceptional in their performance. And what we have done in Europe, Damien, is rebuild a lot of those links that were really destroyed under Fianna Fáil. Let's remember, they did not attend ministerial council meetings, and our reputation in Europe was disastrous when we took power. So it has taken years of painstaking work to build that back up, and we're going to benefit from it now over the coming 12 months in these negotiations, which are critical for Ireland.
Fine Gael have been in power for 9 years.
And we have had money for 3.
What have you done for Waterford?
Well, Damien, we have made a lot of progress. If I could look at some, yes,
4 minutes.
I knew you'd try and stop me on the positive things that we have achieved.
No, I'm not trying to stop you at all.
There has been 67 million euro spent on health projects in Waterford in the last 3 years. We have a completed flood relief scheme, which is a very positive thing. We saw what happened years ago in Polebury and businesses along the quay. Only in the recent storm, we would have had major disruption to businesses. That has been delivered. We have money allocated to the airport, and that will commence this summer, according to Michael Welch, who is the CEO, and that's a positive. We also have our amazing Greenway, which has linked both Dungarvan and Waterford, with more money allocated to bring the Greenway into Waterford City. We have a commitment around the North Quays, which is going to be the biggest catalyst to drive our city and region forward over the coming years. And, the courthouse, the fire station, they're all projects, and particularly the fire station that I personally was involved in myself. So,
you haven't mentioned the hospital there in any of those.
I did. I said that we had 67 million euro in the last 3 years spent on health projects. projects. We have primary care centres built in St Otterns and Dungarvan. We're completing St Patrick's Hospital at the moment. We have a new ward block at UHW. The mortuary is under construction. We have a new A&E at UHW, all delivered under Fine Gael, and many of them at times when we had very little money. And these same projects were shelved under Fianna Fáil. Let's not forget St Patrick's Hospital. Where did the money for that go? It went to Kerry because the Healy Rays decided to support the Fianna Fáil-led administration. That was money, and that hospital should be operational for the last 10 years. It's now being completed under Fine Gael.
We're going to have a cath lab, second cath lab?
Yes, we are. It has planning permission, Damien, as of Friday 3 weeks ago. And more importantly than that was the interviews that took place last week to recruit 2 interventional cardiologists, which will allow the service to expand to an 8 to 8, 7-day-a-week service. But that's not enough, and I am not satisfied with that. I will only be satisfied when we have 24/7 cardiology services at UHW, and every candidate is committed to that. That is going to be delivered for Waterford.
Are you worried about Sinn Féin potentially getting into power?
I would have concerns, Damien, and I'd have concerns based on their taxation policy. I think they are going to drive corporations and small and medium enterprises out of business, and I believe that they're going to, let's take for example doctors, and we know that we have a shortage of consultants in Ireland. They're saying that they're going to recruit over 1,000 or 2,000 doctors, but yet they're going to tax them an extra €7,000 over and above what Fine Gael is going to tax them. So if we can't recruit them on the present contracts, how are they proposing that we're going to recruit them now?
They say they have fully costings worked out.
But if we can't recruit them on the current salaries, how are they going to say that they're recruiting these people and when they're going to tax them more? That's the reality.
John Cummins, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks very much, Damien.
Now, keep your texts and comments coming in 083 333 975 or call Laura on 051 846 123. We'll come to a lot more of those texts in a little while. A lot of people with comments, especially on the sulky racing. Firstly, we're going to go to a report I did on Friday. I was out with some of the council teams. Could have been anywhere in the country. We went around the city first. And here is my report with the council teams about the horror and the awful mess that is illegal dumping. Now lads, how's it going?
Fine.
Who have we got here? Jimmy and Paul. Jimmy
Kiley.
And Paul
Flynn.
How long are you working in the council? Good few years?
I'm 20 years with them.
Every day living the dream?
Living the dream, yeah. so the engineer tells us anyway, we're living the dream.
We're driving at the minute and we're just going around looking to see if we can find any litter black spots. Have you been working in this particular area in terms of looking out for litter and finding this sort of people dumping for many years? A good few years?
Yeah, a long time. Like we do daily inspections of most of Waterford City and the outskirts. And like it's a daily routine that we do inspections of street inspections.
Yeah, and have you found, Jimmy, over the years, has it got worse? Has it got better? Has the type of dumping changed?
The type of dumping has changed. It seems to be more sacks now and large-scale dumping in particular areas.
Right. So the idea that people have become more conscious of throwing stuff out the windows and stuff like that, there's maybe less of that, but there's more industrial style dumping.
No, there's not more. It's not less of the random dumping of litter. It's just got more prevalent with bags and larger material.
Yes.
People just don't seem to care. They just seem to.
Here's some places here. We're stopping here now, and we're just on the outskirts of Ballybeg here, and there's... Jeez, this is bad. That looks bad. Now, before we even go to inspect that, Paul, what are we looking at there?
Basically, what you're looking at there, Damien, is wide scale dumping of mattresses, black sacks, and devil knows what there. There's timbers and that type of stuff that will be dumped there. The procedure will be that we will get out, check the bags, and see if we can come across any evidence in it.
That's really time consuming.
Yeah, it is, but it's the only way that we can do it. It's very time consuming, but it's as I said, it is the only way we can do it, and to try and get prosecutions to stop this.
Jimmy, how does this make you feel looking at this?
Well, when I look at it, it's a complete drain on resources. scarce resources that the county and the city could be using in other ways, besides having us to go out with machinery and actually have to clean that up on a daily, weekly basis. It's gone beyond a joke. Like, it's so prevalent nowadays.
Must be disheartening.
It is indeed, yeah, Damien, yeah. I feel there's actually it's not being taken seriously enough, because like if you look up just over your head here, there's cameras here.
Yeah.
And they belong to An Garda Síochána. I can't see why they can't be used.
Yeah.
And prosecute the people that are actually just walking across the road from the estates, throwing it out here.
Paul, how does it make you feel?
It's mind-boggling, to be quite honest with you, Damien. We come here, we clean an area. We could get a call the next day saying that the rubbish is back there again, and we're just fighting a never-ending battle in the one area. You know, we're investing massive amount of resources into it on a yearly basis, whereas if this was done, or the people that were dumping the waste legally, we could redirect that resources into something more productive for the area and for the locality.
Okay, we'll get outside and have a look. So, Paul, we've just stepped out here and we're in a green area. There's a concentration of rubbish here. There's empty cans. Open up that bag there.
There's beer cans in this one, the same as the one that's after being split open beside you, Damien.
See bottles there. There's food over here. I presume there'll be rats around here at night.
I would imagine there's all kind of vermin around here. It's going from rats, birds, dogs, and even at that, where we're positioned now at the moment, you have probably kids that will come across here and play as well, so it will be a health issue for them.
Yeah, I see a football over there, so again, somebody wants to go and rescue the football. They might be walking possibly on needles. Yeah. There's mattresses here. The dumping extends for, as you say, maybe a good 150 metres.
Absolutely. There's from where we started to where we're looking down approximately 150 metres. It's just one thing after another. You have Christmas trees there behind you, wrapping off Christmas presents, all that type of carry-on.
What about respect? What about people, and they claim that they love their country and they love Ireland and they love their area and they love their community, and yet they do this?
Personally, I think they can't respect it that much if they're doing things like this. We have a beautiful country. It's a fantastic place to live, bring up kids, the whole lot. But for things like this, it's just mindlessness.
And you have special protective gear?
I have protective gloves on. We have anti-syringe gloves that are supposed to prevent getting needle sticks into the hand. I'm wearing a full apron from my neck down to my feet. Again, it's anti-stick, so we don't get any sticks with any needles.
Special boots.
Boots, then we're looking at PPE, our normal work boots.
Ever any come across needles and dangerous things?
We have. I was a victim of a needle stick injury back a couple of years ago. It's not something that I would like to go through again, nor put anybody else through, because it's not just myself that it affected, it was my whole family.
In what way? Hepatitis?
Just hepatitis, HIV, I've 2 kids at home. I had to be careful. For me, even taking a drink of Coke out of a cup, I had to be mindful that if I had it, I could pass it on through them. It's done through bodily fluids. So from everything from going to the gym to being with my family.
Did you get hepatitis?
I didn't, thank God. Everything came back right and well.
The worry and the stress.
Worry and stress is unreal. It's a 12 months that's just I wouldn't like to go through again, let alone put anybody else through.
And anybody who's dumping stuff here, they don't think about that.
No, they don't.
Like, you're an ordinary council worker.
Yeah. I have a family to go home to at the end of the day. I know they might not be in their full senses or whatever the case may be, but we're at the cold front. We're taking the responsibility of trying to clean up the area.
So the lads are going through the bags here now, and as we do that, we've got Niall King, is that right?
Kane.
Niall Kane. Niall, what's your position?
I'm a senior executive engineer in the environment section, so I'm over all the guys and doing the clean up and the enforcement.
And who have we here?
Vicky Butler, Estate Management Officer for the area.
Looking at this here, we're just standing here behind the van because there's a smell here as well from it. What's your thoughts when you see things like this? Do you get immune to it, or does it still affect you? Do you just...
No, it still affects me. It encompasses a huge amount of the calls I get, which means it takes up a huge amount of my time. This site here you could probably replicate up behind it would be common up along this road in 2 or 3 varying spots. We've managed to actually successfully combat in a couple of areas, but then again that takes resources, it takes time, it takes effort, and it's resources, time and effort that you can be spend for my position, you can spend it on such more positive things. It's time that you could be spent engaging with the community, and then when you're looking at this and when people see this, they lose value in their area, because you have to remember, this is not everybody doing this. This is the few who ruin it for everybody, but this impacts...
because there's such a great community here. There's so many great things done. There's only a minority of people doing this, but it spoils it for everybody.
You would be hard pushed to find a community like this in any other part of Waterford. There's so many resources, there's so many groups, they all come together, they really do act as a community.
There's Garda cameras here. Can the guards not help out?
They can, but usually what you'll find is that the visibility is poor. They're very clever. Usually licence plates aren't visible. Usually there's hoods, and we're finding that that's a situation that's probably replicated in most instances where you do manage to get footage. Even if they do manage, they're usually very clever to stay off the footage, but even if you do get it, people are usually unidentifiable.
Now, you're showing me pictures there. We don't have to go through them all again, but there's areas of all over the county.
Yeah, this is not a problem that's isolated to Ballybeg or to anywhere in Waterford City alone. We have incidents that's happened in Ring, we've incidents that happened in Ballymacarbery, we've incidents that happened near Kill. So it's common. It's very often there's unauthorised waste collectors, guys who are operating a man in a van. They're going around collecting waste. They're advertising through either word of mouth or on social media, and they're saying, we'll do it cheaper, we'll handle it cheaper. But this is what the consequence of that is. It gets dumped here. But the thing is, it isn't always cheaper, because what happens is we'll search, we'll look for evidence, we'll try to catch what it is. And we have had prosecutions against people who've given waste to people, waste collectors. In 2018 there was 80 fines issued to people under the Litter Pollution Act, where there was waste found, evidence found on them in their waste. We've had illegal waste collectors. So in 2017 we had an illegal waste collector who was fined €3,000 plus another 1,800 in costs. In 2018 we had another illegal collector who was fined €800, another €950 in costs. But in 2018, in a separate case, we actually had a person who had given their waste to a waste collector but then couldn't provide evidence of what it was. So they were the person who ended up taking the full rap for this, and they were fined €2,000 and €1,750 in costs, and that was up in the outskirts of Clonmel. This year we have a couple of cases pending, where we've had waste which was dumped off a cliff down, into the sea down near Anstown. Where we had to go and we had to get specialist guys, rope access to go and get that waste so we could go and search that. And then,
how much does it cost ye, do you know? Is there any way of putting it on a cost? There's hidden costs on the basis that these men here could be doing something else. But then in terms of cost, it's phenomenal what it would cost you.
Yeah, well, I suppose the council,
the
time and effort and the costs for doing the clean-ups, the council would be spending, in excess of €1 million a year cleaning up illegal dumping. But apart from that, this has an impact on people. If it's near people, it's causing pollution, it's affecting the environment. There's smell, there's vermin, there's flies.
It can cause behaviour issues. It can attract bad behaviour.
Yeah. And sometimes, a lot of cases, it's burnt, which is causing air pollution. It's affecting people with asthma. The stuff that when it's burnt, it's releasing toxic chemicals, which are very bad for people's health, and that's having an impact on everyone around them. So, it's very important that people don't give their waste to an unauthorised waste collector, that to make sure to use a proper waste collector that has a waste collection permit, or else they're bringing it to a civic community site. Or
do you know the way sometimes people might say the council can overstate things? This shows that you're not.
No, definitely not. And my experience, my day-to-day, week-to-week experience is that we are not, So and it's a pity, because there are options out there, like the mattresses you see behind you there. The council actually operate a pick-up service on a Monday. You can actually, for a very reasonable price, get your rubbish picked up from outside your door. You don't even have to bring it to Kilbarry. There are always affordable options out there, and alternatives which won't put you at risk and won't harm your community either.
How much would it cost to get something like that that?
That mat. Oh, you mean the site
Mattress.
cleared? The mattress taken from your front door. I think 24. Is it 20? Between 20 and 24 euro.
Yeah. And the clearance of this site now. What are you going to have to do with this site here now?
Well, our lads will go in there and they'll gather up the rubbish. They'll get it taken up in a van and into a grab truck into a van to take it away and bring it off to a landfill to be properly disposed of.
How does it make you feel?
Unfortunately, you see all too much of it, but you feel sickened every time. You realise someone is so callous to do this. When it's so easy to do the right thing.
I think it's very interesting. Niall said it's 1 million that is the cost over the year when you consider the struggle the council had to balance their books before the Christmas. I mean, they got it down through hard work to 2 million, and yet 1 million is the cost now that will out of that. So potentially that money could be going to far more productive things within the community.